Hey everyone, welcome to Wax Pack Wisdom, where we talk basketball history through card breaks and the cards we love. My name is Jake T. O'Donnell. Today we're opening this pack of 1990 Skybox Series 2 NBA cards. This is the inaugural first Skybox edition. Lots of great players and cards in this era, so let's see what we got. This is a kind of more of a foil pack, and let's see. Hopefully it's relatively easy to open. It's not so far. There we go. All right. Let's see if we pull like a nice Magic Johnson card. Well, there's Olden Polynice, who is being defended by none other than Patrick Ewing. There, Olden Polynice was maybe not as prolific of a player, but a very good player for a lot of years. So in the NBA, and played around. He played with the Clippers and. Good big guy who, again, had a solid NBA career. So the next card in this pack is Larry Bird, Larry Legend, number 33, the basketball Jesus. Well, I am a Celtics fan, and Larry Bird is somebody that I wish that I had gotten to see play more. I wasn't really into basketball during his career. His last year, I think, was 92, 93. I was only like 6, 7. I was like 7 years old when he retired. So I never really got to see a lot of Larry Bird play live. However, I have certainly watched a lot of his highlights. I've read a lot about Larry Bird, and I've seen watched old games of his, especially sort of his great era, 86, somewhere in there, and one of the all-time greats. And one of the all-time competitors. The stories of his trash talking and the level of competition, sort of this hick from French lick type guy, but also who just would kill you to win a game. So it's really awesome that we pulled a Larry Bird card out of this pack. I feel really great about that. He is. I don't have a lot of Larry Bird cards in my collection. In fact, I would say I might get this card graded, to be honest with you. I think I only have one other Larry Bird card in my collection, and I love this card. This is great to see. It does have really good centering, and I'm really thrilled to pull a Larry Bird card out of a pack. One of my favorite basketball players that I didn't really get to watch play. So there you go, Larry Legend, one of the all-time greats, pulled out of a pack of 1990 Skybox Series 2. So. Let's go to Mike Schuler, the coach of the Clippers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Just say that he was not a very good. This was not a very good era for the Clippers, and of course, there was no really good era for the Clippers until just a couple years ago. Here's another great player. There's Dennis Rodman, and he's being guarded, or he's going up for a rebound there with Larry Bird in that picture. These are great cards, by the way. I just want to mention that. Dennis Rodman. There's some obviously very fascinating stuff about him in the Last Dance documentary, but just fascinating stuff in general about one of the really most colorful characters ever in the history of the NBA. Here he is at this point with the bad boy Pistons. This is sort of the peak of that era for the Pistons. It's the sort of interregnum between the great Celtics era and when Michael Jordan's Bulls sort of really started to take over. And Dennis Rodman was a younger player on those Pistons teams. And he was an instigator and an incredible rebounder. I don't want to take away from some of his abilities on the court. He was one of the better rebounders ever to sort of come out of the NBA and to come out and play in the NBA in this era. And just a nasty, mean streak kind of guy. And he worked perfectly with that team with Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer and those guys. But Dennis Rodman, for all of his sort of off-court exploits, he was a great player. So just wanted to mention that. There's Dennis Rodman. Here's Todd Lichty. I don't really know anything about Todd Lichty. I do like this era of the Nuggets, their uniforms and their logo. I've mentioned that before. So there's Todd Lichty. Here's Chris Ford. Chris Ford was the sort of a protege of Casey Jones. He played for the Celtics, and then he became the Celtics head coach. He was the Celtics head coach that I remember when I first started sort of paying attention to sports, paying attention to the Celtics, paying attention to basketball. He got caught in this weird era with Reggie Lewis, and then The team kind of started to founder, and it was very hard for them, and was hard for many years for them to attract free agents to come to Boston. Chris Ford was a good coach, and he was a good person. He ran a basketball camp, I know, also I believe in the Boston area for a long time. He passed away within the last year and a half or so. So rest in peace to Chris Ford, but good coach there. All right, here is Buck Johnson. I don't know a lot about Buck Johnson. I will just say that. This is Houston. This is right before Houston ends up. Houston had some good teams in the 80s going into the 90s. There you see him. He was didn't put up big numbers or anything like that. But and you see the back of the cards there. So I'm going to move on because the next player is another member of the Celtics Big Three. There's Robert Parrish. What a pack of cards we have so far today, folks, of these basketball cards. Robert Parrish was the center of the great Celtics teams. This was a big trade that the Celtics pulled, where they got Robert Parrish and I believe the draft pick that turned into Kevin McHale in exchange for a player named Joe Barry Carroll from, it was a trade with, I think it was Golden State. And Robert Parrish played in the NBA for like 20 plus years. Incredible long career. And just a tough guy, perfect center on that team. Again, playing with Kevin McHale and Larry Bird, and then all the other great players as well. His nickname was the Chief. I will just mention that. It's not really something I want to dwell on too much, but he was a fantastic longtime NBA center, Hall of Fame caliber quality player. So awesome to pull a Robert Parrish card in this same pack with the Larry Bird card. Here is the Trailblazers team card, and it's a team checklist, so you can kind of see some of the names on the back there. You see Clyde Drexler, Clyde the Glide, Danny Ainge they had at this point, Terry Porter was a good player, Cliff Robinson, Drazen Petrovic, rest in peace to the great Drazen Petrovic. Rick Alleman was the coach. Like this was a good team, and they were like a championship quality caliber team. Speaking of that, there's Dan Marley, who was with the Suns when part of those teams when Charles Barkley made the move over there. Good player, was a good piece of those teams. All right, there's Sean Elliott. He was a member of the Spurs team sort of before David Robinson came in, and was somebody who has been, I think, part of the Spurs basketball culture for quite a long time, and was a good player for quite a few years with the Spurs. Okay. Next up is Dennis Hopson, who I guess would have been a member of the really good Bulls teams as they kind of come into their own here before Michael Jordan ends up carrying them to championships. So Dennis Hopson, definitely part of that group. All right. Next up is Craig Elo, who was an excellent player for the Cavaliers. He somewhat famously, Michael Jordan made a series-winning shot. I think it was a series-winning shot over Craig Elo in the playoffs in the late 80s. So Craig Elo, I think that's unfortunately most of his claim to fame, but that is Craig Elo. Again, good player for these Cavs teams. Averaging 13 points a season, and nice player. All right, next up is Muggsy Bogues, who we have talked about on this channel before. We've talked about him quite a bit. Just a really good player, sort of a famous player in the early 90s in the NBA, mostly just because of his size, because of how short he was. And always fun to see his cards. I guess I wasn't totally positive that I knew what his actual name was before we started running through some of these cards. But there's Muggsy Bogues, one of the more memorable players of that era in the NBA. All right, and then the last card in the pack is Dan Shays. Dan Shays with the Bucks. There he is. playing with it's, you know, I can't really think of who else was on the Bucks in this era. There he is. I think that's actually Craig Elo. That is, that's Craig Elo right there on the right, who is involved in a play there with Dan Shays. So looks like a big man for the Bucks in this era. So so we pulled some really good players in this pack. As a Celtics fan, kind of obligated to put in these two guys as our last two cards that we wrap up two of the big three. I'm sorry we didn't pull Kevin McHale in this pack, but pulling Bird and Parrish, not too bad. So that's going to do it for this edition of Waxback Wisdom. Tell us what you thought of this break. What's your favorite card we pulled today? Do you have a story about one of the players in this pack? Leave us a comment and let us know. We'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our Waxback Wisdom content. In the video description, you can find links to where you can follow Waxback Wisdom on all social media channels. You'll also find a link to a list of our favorite nonprofits and charities. If you enjoyed this video, please consider a donation to one of those organizations. It would mean a lot to us. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Waxback Wisdom. Take care.